And welcome to Hackathon. We have arrived. Here's my fancy app that meets all the criteria. I'm going to show you what it does and then walk you through building your own fancy dancy Hackathon app. I'm going to hit run. Mine's all about AP exam and the test takers. It's statistic based, gender and race, two important markers, and maybe we should be asking questions about representation, but let's see. Gender, blah. 29% of test takers of the CS exam in Florida were female, 22% in Utah. I can now hit home. We can also break down some information by race, depending on the state. Some food for thought. And now I can hit home back, and that's the original screen. If I go up here to data, this is where I'm getting my information. I'm going to walk through how I designed this, and then, of course, the code. So let's go ahead and dive right into the tutorial. This is code.org, and it is hackathon time. Woo! All right, for this, we want to plan out our application. We need 3 screens. We need it to be awesome. We need lots of stuff. So to do that, my students should have already picked up their planning guide, and if you're not my student, you should probably have one. Regardless, let's take a look. We need 3 screens. All screens must be able to be navigated through, right? We can't have a floating screen no one gets to. We need to use a data set. We need to transverse a list. Don't let that word scare you. We'll talk. Programming, yep, normal stuff there. IDs, no errors. All right. So let's go ahead and start thinking about our data. If you're wondering where to find that, I'm in, well, here, and just go anywhere that you can see code design data. Ta-da. Let's take a look at data. I've already opened some up here. I have MISC open. I want to point out a few that I think are awesome. Roller coasters and volcano eruptions are cool. But there's a whole host of things here you could use data for. What I'm going to do, because I'm a teacher and I'm lame, is I would like to use the AP Computer Science test takers. So I'll click on this, and I'm going to click Preview. So my application is going to let you kind of explore gender representation in computer science and racial representation because, well, it's a bit off, it's far off from even. And that's interesting to take a look at. So what I'm doing is using this data. Now, on my sheet here, what I would do with this information is with my group, data set, I would say AP Computer Science test takers. What columns of data would I use? Well, I'm going to be using the state. I'm going to be using how many female test takers, and then also some of the columns about the race of the students taking it. So that's what I would fill in here. Now, I'm not going to sketch out oh no, I do want to talk about this though, definitely. All right, so you might be wondering, filter, map, reduce, this is terrifying. You're probably doing filter, I am. And what I mean by filter is someone will, I don't know, want Alaska or something like that. And then Alaska's at index 0. So I'll give them that index. And then I'll also give them the female test taker percentage. And I'll also give them, and so I'll use that index 0 and I'll use it in my female list and say, okay, well, what's the data at index 0 of the female list? That is to filter the data. Right? So list from one column to determine information that will be filtered from another. So I use that index and I grab other stuff. Map, add or change each item of a list, such as rounding all the numbers in a list, that would count, or reduce. You reduce to the smallest number, you grab information from it, and then sketching it out. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start by hitting import, or you could hit import here on the data that you would like to use. Once you've imported it, we really need to start with design mode. My first screen, I'm going to call the home screen, and it's going to have 2 buttons, okay? And what that will be, we'll say one button's going to explore gender, and then the other one will take a look at race. So those would be my 2 buttons. I'm going to drag out one, and I might as well drag out the other, and I do want them to look somewhat consistent. So let's see, a width of, I'm thinking 150 and a height of 60 maybe. This might be far too large. Nah. And then I'll say gender BTN for this button, and let's put it, yeah, that's fine. And then for this, so I know the screen is 320 across. So what if I put this at 160? Oh. Perfect. That looks about even to me. All right. So this will be gender, and I'm going to write gender. And then this will be racial statistics, race.b2. And make sure you're giving your buttons good names. So again, the pages that you're going to have in your app, that's what I'm linking on my home page, my first page. So one will be the stats on gender, and the other one is going to be those stats on race. So race. And then that is looking good. Let's go ahead and do a title as well. I'm going to call this title label. And I will say a really good way to know what you're basing yours on. See, mine is demographics by state. So I'm going to say AP test taker demographics, or yeah, the title somewhat, I mean, it is up to you. APCS test taker demographics. Perfect. I'm going to drag this up here for me because it's my title. Obviously, make yours look however you want. All right, now I want to change the text size down here, probably to 26. It's looking a bit better. I'm going to align that in the center. And then let's go ahead. I'm going to select my theme now. Nah, no, definitely not. Yeah, I'm liking this for a theme. So, pada, that will be it. Now, let me go ahead and maybe make that a bit bigger. There we are. And then I'm going to put some type of icon here or an image. So let me drag this out and do image. I'm probably just going to use an icon. Here we go. I'm going to use the icon for users, right? People taking a test. And I am definitely changing their color to be something like that. Maybe I'll even make them bigger. All right, so this is my main screen. And obviously there's much more we can do with it. Yours will probably look better than mine, but this is good for me. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my next screen. And this will be the gender screen. And on the gender screen, I'm going to use a drop-down menu because I'm going to put in all 50 states, which is going to be super fun. And I'm going to put this towards the top. Let me actually, over that though, do a label. I'll say gender title label, so I know what page this is. And then I'll for a title, I'm gonna do gender statistics. And then I don't want this as big as my lead title, so I made it a bit smaller. I'm gonna center it. A little bit. Gender statistics, and then now let's go back to my drop down. States drop down. Now to actually add the states, you might be in a situation like me, you need to add a ton of stuff. I want to be kind of lazy. I'm gonna magic my way over. I literally just Googled 50 states in order or alphabetized. I'm gonna highlight all this. I'm gonna right click copy. I'm gonna go back to here. And I'm going to select all. I'll delete whatever they have here. And I'm going to do right-click paste. And ta-da! Done. So it's there, and I don't have to worry about writing in every state, which is stellar. We appreciate code.org for thinking of that. And here we are. I want to center this. Oh, it is. Okay, sure. And I'll kick up the font a little. All right, so that's good. Now I want the actual data. So what data do I need? I need to be sure of that. I want to use the total test takers by feet. Wait, I want this percent. Definitely. That's what I want to know, is the percent of people who took the exam. If I wanted to be fancy, I could also do tests taken and then compare it to the amount of tests. We'll keep it simple for now. This could make things look skewed because 29. Anyways, I'm going to do the percent of women who took the exam. So total female. So for here then, what will show up is blah, blah, blah took the exam. So whatever percent. And so for that, I'm going to need in design mode. I want to add a text area to output that. Something like this. I'm going to have two buttons below this, but let's say gender output. Okay. And then here I'll have some type of icon again. Of course, you should go find interesting pictures on the internet. I just want to keep this all on code.org. So image, icon. Hey, this is perfect. Let's do ba. And I can do both maybe then. Boop. And then I'll do, just going to duplicate and choose male. And I need to change this like always, men icon. Great. And then at the bottom, let's have a button to home. We could have buttons to both pages, but a button to home will offer us both pages again. So I'm just going to have a button here, and it will say, I want to know where it's at though, so I need to say gender so I never get confused. And then I'm going to say home BTN. And the text, home. Okay. I might crank up the size of our font here. I don't want it that big. Awesome. This is looking good. Okay, so that's one more. Now we need one more. So I'm going to go here. And you know what? A lot of this stuff is going to be the same. I don't want to have to copy and paste this data again, all the states. So what I'm going to do is go up here and say duplicate. And now I should, oops, I was on the button. I'm going to delete that button. I want to do the whole thing. So let's get there. I'm on the gender screen, duplicate. Now, duplicate gender screen to screen 2. I'm on screen 2, so let me take a click here, and we'll say race screen. Scene, yikes. Race scene, right? So, and then we're going to need to get rid of this. Actually, we'll change them up. Gender, we'll say race statistics, right? And then let me take a look at our icons. Oh, we do need to relabel everything. So race, state, drop down menu. When you duplicate, it doesn't auto assign. And then let's see if they have like stats. Nope. Maybe a graph, because this one's kind of harder to. We could do, this would make sense, right? Or this one. I want this one. It's easier to read. Oh, it looks like a mountain though. I don't want a mountain. Boom. All right. Guess I'm using this chart. And maybe to make it a bit better, I'm going to do a different color on it. I'll go that color. And actually, I want 2 icons like last time because I'm interesting. So let me duplicate that guy, put it over here, except this time, I'll choose a pie chart. Boom. Yeah. It's like a pastel version of the Joker. All right, so there's my really fancy page. Race statistics. Let me make sure I get this output area, race output, and then race home BTN. Okay. So make sure you label everything. Race, title, label. All right. Looking great. So that's all good. We know where we're going to output stuff. Might move that a bit closer. Let's take a look. Gender screen, still looking great. Did I do that? Yep. And home screen. Awesome. So we have the aesthetic part down. Now let's dive a little deeper into some of this code. Let's see then. All right, code. And how can we start? Again, make sure you have your data imported like I do. It will show up here if it is. All right. So I'm going to start by declaring some variables. So let me go to variable here and var. Do we want these to equal anything? Well, we will want a few lists. So those I'm going to need to equal something. So let's do var and var and var. I can think 3 off the top of my head. I'll start with 2. So my first list will be just called states, and I'm going to get these states names. How do I get the states names from data? Well, it's what we have done before. I'm going to head over to data, get column, okay, and here's where I put the table's name and the column that I would like to use. So let me select my table, and here it is, and it will only show up if you've imported it. So if you're not seeing yours, you want to make sure to import your table. And then, yikes, since it's so long, we can't see this. Let me zoom out a bit. And let me click here, and I'm going to click choose. And what do I want? Well, I want state for this first one. Okay. And now this will be a list of states, index starting at 0. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to do my gender page first. So I'll just call this gender. It's their gender statistics on women who have taken the test, on girls who have taken the test. Let me do get column, and then what's the table? Same table, of course. And then what category or what column do I want to turn into a list? Do I want to turn into an array? And like I said, I want the percent of females taking the exam. Awesome. So we have our states and we have gender. I'll put gender list behind this because gender list makes more sense to me. All right. And let's then go ahead and start working on these buttons. So what do I want to enable? Well, I'll do the gender button first then. So let me see my code again. And how are we going to make it work? Well, on the event, I'm going to go ahead and use good syntax, good formatting. I'm going to put a space, and there we are. This isn't required. Yours will function without, but on event that and what did I call this? Gender button, probably? Yep, and this is why good naming is important, because notice that it doesn't split up by screen. Okay, so home button, I don't have a home button on this screen. It lists all of my content, so you need to make sure to name things in a manner that makes sense. So when the gender button is clicked, what do I want to have happen? Well, I want to go to the gender screen. To do that, I'm going to use set screen. So on the event that the gender button's clicked, I want to go to the gender screen. All right, let's give this a shot. Let me go back to my home screen and hit run. I'm going to click gender. So far, so good. All right. So now that I have done that, let's take a look that we can get to our gender screen. Add it. Well, we have this list. So we probably want to know what state they're going to be clicking on. So I'm going to create a variable up here at the top because it's easier. You might be able to do this within a function, but I'll do it at the top in case I make changes. So I'll call this state selection. Okay. And I might default it just in case to prevent errors equal to Alabama because that's the first state. When you are classifying them alphabetically, right? So I'm just going to default it to that just to make sure there's not errors or issues that arise. So now, what's going to happen? Well, I'm going to say when they select a state, so what's this? State dropdown. All right, so on the event, again, I'll just add a few spaces here, just so it's easier for you to read. On the event that the state dropdown, that one's called, make sure you're on the right page too, because you might have dropdowns on several pages, but I named this one just states dropdown is clicked. Actually, I want to know when it's changed. So on the event that it is changed, the computer will wait for a change to take place, because we don't care if they click it, we want to know if it's actually been adjusted. And what we'll do then is I'm going to say, okay, well, let's take our variable state selection and make it equal to whatever they choose. So once they change it, I want to go ahead and get the text of the dropdown. So get the text of state dropdown. So once they have made a change, I want to make sure that I grab the state dropdown text. Okay. And to test this, I'm going to go ahead and use a console log because debugging is awesome. Or actually, we could just put it in directly as well. I'm going to put it down here just to make sure things are running correctly. Because if you don't look at these things early on, it becomes a headache when nothing works and it was one of your first steps that went wrong. Okay, so it's currently equal to Alabama. Good. Gender. Now though. Arizona. Perfect. Tennessee. Yep, great. All right, that's what we wanted to see. So that is functioning. I can get rid of that. So when we do that, once we make an adjustment based on state, what do I want to have happen? Well, remember, I want the statistics to appear down here. So once I do that, I want to find the state in this column. So what I will do, we could use substring, we could compare them directly. What I'm going to do though is I have to loop through all of the info, right? I have to loop through all of these states. So to loop through all the states, I'm going to use a for, and we might make this its own function, but for now I'll put it in here. So for I is going to be equal to 0. I is less than 4. That's not what we would want though. We want 50, right? No, I hope you said no. We don't want 50 because what if there's Puerto Rico in there, right? What if the guy who made this list left off a state? Do you really want to count it right now? So to prevent this from breaking, right, we should always do whatever list I'm going through. And what am I going through? Well, right now I'm going through the states list. So states dot blank. Because right now it grabs the text from here. It's not taking a look at the list that we created out of our data. It's just grabbing the text so it knows a state name. Now we have to find that state name. So for I is equal to 0, we're going to start at 0 index, right? Because the list starts at 0. So Alabama's at the 0 index. And what's next? Arkansas? Alaska's at the 1 index, 2 index, so on and so forth. And then how far do we want to go? Well, we want to stop counting when states is at the end, states.length. So, and each time we're adding 1. So I starts at 0. I has to be less than the length of our state list. And add 1, that's what I++ means, add 1 to I each time. So then we say, okay, is 0 less than the length? Yes. All right, so we dip down and run the code inside. What am I going to do inside this? We've seen this before. I'm going to say if state selection equals states I. So I'm seeing if they're the same. If they're equal, woohoo, we found what we needed. So if they are equal, I'm going to say, let's do a variable index outside of this. So I'm going to do variable index, and I'll start it at 0. But if we find it, if they're equal, I'm going to say index is equal to I. Because I right now is 0, right? Say I select Alaska, so that's the second one on the list. I starts at 0. I is less than the list of the length of the list, so 50, I++. So 0 is less than state's length, and so we dip down and it says, if state selection, and I just said I picked Alaska, is equal to state's 0. Well, state 0 is Alabama. So is Alabama, right, equal to, this is state 0. This is the information that it's getting them from. And it's comparing them to the stuff I typed in from the drop-down menu. So it's saying, okay, is the Alaska I might have chosen equal to 0 on our list? No, 0 on our list is Alabama. So that says false. It does not run the code inside. It hits the bottom. It says I equals I+1 or I++. So 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 is less than 50, so it dips down, and now it says, is the state selection, again, I had picked Alaska, equal to state's index of 1? Well, index of 1 on our list is Alaska, so it says true, and then we hit this, and it says index is equal to I. So now we have a new value set up for index. We've located our state. Now, traditionally, I would do break on this, but we haven't learned break, so that is fine. All right, so once they are equal, what do we want to have happen? I could actually update it on the fly. So we can use index I. Yeah, that makes it clear. So now let me go ahead and update this, gender output. So I'm going to use set text, gender output, and then what do I want to set it to? Well, I know I is the location of the state in that list. So I want the data from the gender list, because I in the gender list, whatever it is, 1, 2, 3, 17, that will be the same location for that data. So if Alaska is at the index of 1, then Alaska's data in the gender list is at the index of 1. So I want to do gender list I. Okay. And boom. Let's go ahead and try. Alabama. Let's try Alaska. 25. Arkansas. 28. And let's go into data. Alaska. 25. Arkansas. 28. And so maybe I should add percent and things of this nature to make it easier to read, right? So maybe not just this text. I'm going to go into text mode. I'll say percent of test takers were female. And I just did a plus there. Let me show you. And smushed it together with some text. Okay, now let's see it. Percent of, and if you want to adjust the text here, I can go in design. Let me click on this text output. Example, right? So maybe I want this looking a little bit different. I have no idea. Sure, bluish. And then font size, something like that. And maybe I want it centered. Cool. I'm going to take out the default or pick a state, because that can be the default when they first start it. Cool. Code. What? 31% of test takers were female. Neat. I don't like starting with a number. It's not really, I'm going to get rid of the period. It doesn't make as much sense. All right. Perfect. Now we should get working on the other part of our application, which will be, actually, this is going to drive me nuts. All right. I want it there. That looks a bit better. And I'm going to add a border radius. It will curve it some. All right. Now let's get going on our other screen. So the race screen. And like I said, I duplicated it. So I have all of this here. I'm going to make those changes I just did to this. Radius, I think I put 5. And then, oh, text color. I don't know what's going to go. Green. Great. Okay. And now for this, we're going to do something similar, right? We're going to want to grab some data and use it. So what do I want to know? I want to know when they get to this screen. So I'm going to need to enable, right now I only have the gender button working. So let me go ahead and go into UI, and then on event. Right down here. Okay. And we add in a space. And this is going to be on the event that the race button is clicked. We would want to set the screen to the race scene. Set screen. Great. All right. So let's again race, run, race. Boom. All right. And we'll need to enable those home buttons too. But for now, okay, on the event, yep, we got that. So let's go to the race screen. And it's going to be very similar what we have happen here to what I did up here. So on the event that states drop change, well, wait. So on the event that race state, I named that one. So on the event that the race state drop is clicked, no, we want to change. And then what should I have happen? Well, same thing as up here, right? We should do, yeah, that's fine. So I'm going to declare another local index. I could call it something else, but I'll just use the word index again. I'm going to keep it local within this function instead of global, which would be outside of it. So index is going to be equal to 0. Now, what do we want to do? Well, I want to say, just like I did up here, state selection. So I'll use this term again. State selection is going to be equal to whatever this text is. So this text is, let me see, the ID is race state drop. Okay, so state selection, so when the race rate stop changes, I'm going to make state selection equal to, and then I want to get the text. And what do I want to do with that text? Well, wait, get text, race state drop. There we are. So I'm going to grab that text. And what do I need to do next? Well, I want to loop because I want to find the state. So whatever state I select, just as I explained before, I want to loop through and look for that state in my states list. So just like this. All right, we want to loop through the entire list as I explained. And then we'll add 1 to I each time. And then if state selection equals states, as we get further into parameters and arguments, it might be useful to do it that way, but we'll just use 2 loops for now. So state selection is equal to states I. Okay. And then if these are equal, right, same deal. If the state at index I is equal to the word we grab from here, then that's the state we need. This is the index we need. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go ahead and again do index I. Index will be equal to I, to the I we are at. We don't really need to use it like this. Actually, here, this is redundant. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Let's eliminate the redundancy because we're doing it inside of the loop anyways. So at I, we're going to set text. Set the text of this race output. And we're going to make it equal to whatever is at the index of, what did I call it? Did I do? Oh, I didn't. Okay. Let's make sure to make a list for this. Get column. I'm going to do more info. It should, yes, states. Okay. Native total school offering. So this does Hispanic, Black, American Indian, and Hawaiian. Okay. Let's do 2 different ones at first, and we'll get the others. So I'm going to say Black test takers for my first list. And what am I going to do? Well, I will be using the choose this. And then what part of that am I going to be using? Well, let me zoom out so we can see it. I need the total of Black students who are taking it. And now let's go ahead and I'm going to copy and paste this line and then change it. So I said I want it 4 times. So let me do that. 4. And then, so that's the African American or the Black population. Let's do Hispanic here. And so I'll change this to Hispanic test takers. Let's go ahead now and then change this. They do American Indian and Alaskan. So great, I'll do that. And then I'm just going to use American because that's just the first word here after total for that. So American, great. And then for American Indian, and then Native Hawaiian, other Pacific Islander. Okay, so I'll just do Pacific for that. Great. And so now we have the information on all three of these demographics. So what I'm going to do here is in race output, I'm going to say, let's say in quotes, I'm going to say black students. Here, I'm going to say students who, let's just say students who took the exam are as follows, period. I could do a new line, so I could do a /n, and then I can say black students, and then I'm going to say plus, and black test takers, I. Okay, let me give this a try. Whew. Race. Students who took the exam, black students, 52. Took the exam. I think I'll just lessen this to students who took the exam. All right, and so that's looking good. Now let's add the other students in, obviously. I don't want to, it's going to be really hard to read, so what I'm going to do is make a variable called, fine. I won't make a variable. You can break it up on a variable, but I'll leave it, I guess. And then I'm going to go into text mode. So black students, now I'm going to do a plus and say Hispanic/Latino. I'm just going to copy that, paste, and then colon plus, and then the name of that is Hispanic test takers. This is going to get too long. Okay, I got it. So we're going to have a variable. The variable is going to be var output. Output is going to be equal to this first string. All right, so students who took the exam, and then new line. And then, and this is to make it more readable, output will be equal to output plus this. I'll put it back into blocks, but this way you'll be able to see actually what I'm doing. And then I'm going to add each group of students. So output's going to still be equal to what it was equal to last time, but we're going to add Latino, and then make sure I do their test, their group. Okay, and then I'm going to need 2 more of these for my other 2 populations. American test takers, which was American Indian. Boom. And I'm just going to copy, what's this say? American Indian for the label. And then Native Hawaiian and other. So I'll just say Pacific Pacific Islanders, because Hawaii is in the Pacific. Pacific Islanders. I'm going to put a space to break these up. I also might want to put them on new lines. We'll see. But, and then here, I can finally just put, instead of text, since I'm using a variable, I can just put the word output. Let me show you in block form. So, output. Great. Let me hit run. And it almost goes off. Students who took the exam. Okay, let me go into design because we do want to change that then. And I'm just going to say 18 to make sure. Boom. And maybe I will do new line then, because I could use it. So to do a new line, I'm just going to delete my extra space here and do /n. And that way I'll make sure that each of these gets its own line, /n. I could also put a /n at the, no, you would need it there actually. And I don't need one for the first because I have it up here. So keep in mind, all I'm doing is using this variable output, equaling it to a string, and then I'm making it equal to, I'm adding to it output plus this, output plus this. It would be the same thing as getting rid of the word output and just putting students plus black students plus that list plus Hispanic, right? I'm just putting it all in the variable and then using the variable so we can see it all. Boom. Quechua. Connecticut. Okay, so Connecticut, 152 black students, 322 Hispanic, 3 American Indian. Let's go check that data. Connecticut, 152, 3, and 1. Perfect. Cool. And so now there's just a few finishing touches, right? When I hit run and I go gender here, my home doesn't work. Oh no, no home. So I'm going to throw in 2 on events. 1 for that, and then 1 for, oh, whoops, that. Gender home. Race home button. And all we need to do then is set the screen. I'm going to space this out a bit. There we are. And let's go through some of this code real quick. And yeah. All right, so I'm going to go to the top. I'll zoom in some. All right, what is all this I just did? I grabbed a state list, gender list, black test takers, Hispanic, American, Indian, Pacific Islander. Where is that? That's in my data. So I picked the list out of data. It's AP test takers. Here it is. All right, and then I'm telling it to grab certain columns. So what this will do is, hey, make my states equal to a list. What's the list? We'll grab that data set I just showed you and grab the column state. So this is a list of states. Gender list, what's that? We'll grab the data set I just showed you and grab the column titled total female, so on and so forth, okay? Then I have state selection and I just default that to Alabama. Now, gender button. This is when the user clicks on that, and I can put these together. It might make a bit more sense. And then the race button. That's to take them to the 2 different pages. When they do click on that, here is the gender dropdown, states dropdown, and maybe I should be more explicit with that. I probably should. So where is that located? I'm going to call it gender states dropdown. Okay, and now I'm going to go back here and fix that, because you want to know where it is. So when they click the gender states dropdown, they select a state. That state is equal to state selection. So Alabama, it would be right now. We then start at 0 and we loop through our states list saying, hey, is our selection equal to whatever exists at state index 0, state index 1, state index 2? When it does, when that's true, the if statement says true, and we run this gender output, gender list I, % of test takers. So gender list I would be the same location. Say that state was 5th. Well, then their gender stats are also 5th in our gender list. We output that with this information. I do the same thing, except with those 4 other lists down here, and then we make sure the home buttons work. Pretty cool. I'll do one more demo, and then victory. Gender. Maryland. Uh-oh. Oh, did I fix that? I need to fix it twice. There we are. Gender. Connecticut. 29. South Dakota, 17. And see, maybe I want to pull this out a bit. Okay, let's see if home works. Yep, and now let's look at some racial demographics. Boom. 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 Ooh. Rah! Pretty cool. I hope yours is awesome too. So I'm going to hit finish. Keep in mind for this, continue. For this lesson, if you're wondering, wait a minute, I'm on the next day here. It's all tied together. So I did it all in, I guess it said lesson 14, but all of this is tied together. It's to make sure we can provide students multiple days, obviously, to work on their assignment. Boom. Victory. Awesome.